Hey, April.
I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Romulus Board of Education scheduled for Monday, September 24th, 2007 to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Ms. Kraut?
Here.
Ms. Roscoe's excused. Ms. Freyer?
Present.
Ms. Buckley's excused. Ms. Lanasi?
Present.
Mr. Minkiewicz?
Here.
Mr. Kruger, present.
Would all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda would be the approval of the agenda.
I'll make the motion that we approve the amended agenda.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Lanasi, supported by Ms. Freyer, to approve the agenda as amended. The only change was in
Dale.
some alphabet. Anyone have any questions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item would be the approval of minutes from the previous meeting, which was September 10th, 2007.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda from September 10th, 2007.
Support?
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Freyer, support by Mr. Kuderick, to approve the minutes of the September 10th, 2007 meeting as presented. Anyone with any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Next item would be report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. First off, we have Mr. Clark with personnel actions.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Members of the board, I have several personnel actions before you tonight. Our first one, motion is needed by the board to accept the employment of Dina Hunter as a kindergarten teacher at Merriman Elementary School.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve Dina Hunter as a kindergarten teacher at Merriman Elementary School as presented by the Personnel Department.
I'll support that. We have a motion by Mrs. Lanasi, supported by Mr. Minkiewicz, to approve the hiring of Deanna Hunter as kindergarten teacher at Merriman Elementary. If I am correct, this is a new position.
Yes, it is.
Any board members with any questions or concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Our next personnel action, also, a motion is needed by the board to accept employment of Hannah McNamee as a multi-age classroom teacher at Merriman Elementary School.
Mr. President, I will make the motion to accept Hannah McNamee as the classroom teacher at Merriman Elementary School. Is that multimedia?
No.
Oh.
Multi-age.
Multi-age.
At Merriman.
I'll support that. We have a motion by Ms. Freyer, supported by Mr. Minkiewicz, to hire Hannah McNamee as a multi-age classroom teacher at Merriman Elementary. Any concerns or questions by board members?
Mr. President, I got a
Kruger?
question. If Mr. Weiss or Mr. Clark could explain to the public what the multi-age classroom, what ages are going to cover, for clarification?
I can explain that. The multi-age classroom will cover grades 1 through 3, and there are about 11 children in first grade who are enrolled in the classroom. I believe there are 5 second graders and 4 third graders. So that's 20 children. And the staffing, it'll be staffed with a full-time teacher, of course, and also an aide, a classroom aide who will be in there just about the full day. It's a 5.5-hour position for the classroom aide. And they will be, the multi-age concept is for lower elementary children, and it will provide for a combination of individual, small group, and whole class activities. But it's a more innovative strategy, and it was a great solution to a class size issue that we had at Merriman.
Thank you.
Any other board members, questions?
I just actually wanted, I have a question about, we can stop in and see how that's going, right?
You know, I was going to suggest that you do.
Yeah.
In fact, what I'd like to do, because it's a brand-new teacher, is give her a week or two to get her feet on the ground. From what I've heard, she's off to a terrific start. But if you would contact myself or Carol, we'd love to schedule a time, you know, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, where we have some board members that could visit and maybe even report back to the rest of the board.
Yeah,
on
that
what
would
you
be
saw.
great, actually, because the class appears to be pretty light as far as students, so, I mean, I don't see a problem as far as that goes.
And that's
But
by design, right?
I would like to see just how it's structured and how,
Mm-hmm.
like, what the kids are working on, because there is a significant difference from, obviously, 1st to 3rd grade. But basically, from 1st to 3rd grade, the students aren't actually getting letter grades, so it's still a learning experience for the students. But, yeah, I'd like to see it.
Any other board members with concerns or questions? Seeing none, we'll have a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Our next personnel action is for your information. Due to the need for the PM Latchkey program, Kathy Harris and Ura Russell Robinson are being recalled. And the final action, once again, is for your information. Resignations of Ms. Alvoy Blackman, bus driver, Mr. Christopher Borowski, custodian, and Ms. Donna Zajac, bus aide.
Are any of these positions going to be filled, or
That's still to be determined. We're looking
we're
at
still
that,
working
yes.
on it? Because the one custodian one, I was just wondering, you know. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mrs. Papazigalos, bills for payment.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. I'm recommending the board approve the bills submitted for payment for the period September 12th through September 20th, 2007, in the amount of $960,256.41.
I'll make the motion that we accept that we pay the bills
Support.
presented.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Ms. Lanasi, supported by Ms. Freyer, to pay the bills as presented. Do we have any questions or concerns about any of the bills? I had one, no, I probably won't be able to find it, but there's one teacher at BART. Does she travel a lot as part of the job? Because it seems like there's a lot of mileage involved.
I guess you'd have to let me know who that is. Sometimes in the specials, art, music, things like that, teachers are traveling from building to building.
I can tell you the name later.
Okay. Usually that's why.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, vote is in order. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, next, an enrollment update. I wanted to give the board members an update on where our enrollment is for this school year as compared with last year. As you recall, we had hoped that we would match last year's numbers or come very close to last year's enrollment, since our funding is tied directly to our student enrollment. I also want to say that we had planned as a contingency, and it was listed in the Romulus Roman, that we could have a decrease. Worst case scenario in enrollment was that we lose about 200 students, which, having met with our county superintendents, some of our neighbors lost 200 students between last year and this year. I'm happy to report that we're fairly close to last year's figures. What I'm going to give you is our enrollment currently, but you have to understand that there's a little bit of a margin of error here, and at this point in time, our margin of error is probably plus or minus about 30 students. It's just very difficult to get a very, precise, right on the nose reading, but our count day is actually Wednesday, and that's really the number of FTEs or full-time equivalent students we have on count day is what our funding is based on. So we'll have a definitive answer within 30 days after count day. At this point in time, our enrollment is 4,239 students. Last year at count day, we were at 4,341 full-time equivalents. All right, so that would tend to indicate that we were down about 100 students. However, full-time equivalents, there's some things that are counted. We have a couple of teachers that teach on a shared time basis at some local parochial buildings. We get some partial equivalents for that. Basically, the state pays that funding for that program. So that's added in on count day. And so if we're going to compare apples to apples, here's where we think we are. Last year on count day, as I mentioned, we were at 4,341 full-time equivalents. This year at count day, we are tracking to be at 4,292 full-time equivalents. So we're about 49 full-time equivalents or 49 full-time students shy of where we were last year. And budget-wise, that would transfer to about, let's see. If we're down about 50 students, about $450,000 roughly, shy of where we were last year. But again, we'll have a more precise answer after count day. Any questions about the enrollment? Okay, next we have a motion for a trip proposal, but there's an error in the motion. I'd like to correct it if I could, Mr. President. Or if you'd rather not do that, we could bring the motion. We have time on this one because it's for a February or spring trip. But the motion, as it stands right now, the motion reads, move that the Board of Education approve a field trip to Quebec over February break for the Romulus High School French class. The actual proposal was an either or, and it's included in your packet. The teacher needs to have a certain number of participants to make it feasible to go on that February trip. So what she's suggesting is that if we don't have enough students to go on the February trip to Quebec, that she'd be allowed to take a smaller number of students over spring break to France. All right, so I'd like to correct the motion so that it reads, if you would just put an insert right after over February break and add or France over spring break. So the amended motion should read, move that the Board of Education approve a field trip to Quebec over February break or to France over spring break for the Romulus High School French class at no cost to the district.
I have no problem with that adjustment.
I'll make a motion that we move that the Board of Education approve a field trip to Quebec over February break or to France over spring break for the Romulus High School French class at no cost to the district.
Support.
Ready? All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Kraut, supported by Mrs. Lanasi, to approve the French trip either to Quebec or to France, depending on number of students and time of year. Any questions?
Mr. President, I got a question.
Mr. Cruder?
I understand that she wants to take these students out, and that's great to broaden their horizon in education, but what time frame is she projecting to, have her students in line? Because going to France and Quebec, there's a huge money difference.
Right.
And passports and stuff like this are all needed to be taken care of, so.
And she's working with a travel company that has a lot of experience with the school field trips, and this teacher's also taken both trips before,
Yeah.
So she's working within those.
But what time frame are we looking at? The parents that are planning to go to Quebec in February and they find out, well, there's not enough that their child can go to France and the economy to give the parents adequate time to try to.
My understanding is that she's finalizing the students sometime during the month of October.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
And also, she mentioned that in previous years when she's taken that trip, that the students comes back, they prepare kind of a summary and give a presentation to the board on what they did, what they saw.
Do the kids need passports to go?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody has to have a passport
even
now.
little
Well,
tiny
they would have to
babies.
pretty much already have one because they're backed up right now,
Right.
about a year. In some cases.
Any other questions? All right, then we'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
This is probably a dumb time to say this, but shouldn't we have in there, depending on the count, or, you know, if the count is down for the Quebec trip, she wants to do it for the France trip.
Right. That'll be her decision.
Okay,
It's an either or.
you don't want that in the,
Well, I don't, there is in the letter
Yeah.
that type of
Yeah.
verbiage, so I think we're.
okay.
Right, next item is communications and expressions from the public. We have one request to speak from Miss Sandy Tenney. And Miss Tenney, if you would come up to the square, pick up the microphone, and
You need
Well,
You gotta
to,
stand in the
But it's-
square with the microphone.
yeah, it's for the other.
and the listening audience is gonna wanna see you, Sandy. Is that your phone?
Okay.
You gotta turn it on.
It's not mine.
Yeah, it's on. Yeah, it's on.
Is it
Okay.
on?
Yeah.
I heard you.
Yeah, it's on. Okay. First of all, I have a question to ask you. Now, my kids on the bus asked me this question, and I didn't have an answer, so I told them I would come to you, and then I'd report back to them with the answer. It's the band that I'm asking about. I know, you know, so I just wanted clarification or some kind of an answer on this. As you know, they got new band uniforms, and they look fantastic. Now, to get the band uniforms cleaned is about $30 a crack, you know. So, you know, they'll need them cleaned every once in a while. First of all, I suggested to them, and I don't know if maybe we could look into this, of finding one cleaner that would clean the band uniforms, like, say, at the end of the year, or give them a discount if everybody used this one cleaner. Their question to me, and I thought it was, you know, gives you something to think about a little bit here. I shouldn't say all because I don't know all. A lot of our sports, they get all their uniforms washed every week at a cost to the district. What they were wondering, is it possible maybe to get their uniforms clean once a year or once during the season? It was just, you know, something to throw out to you because they didn't understand theirs is a class, even though marching band is an extracurricular activity, but it's also a class where sports is not a class, and they get clean uniforms every week, you know, and don't have to. So it was a question that they asked that I thought, well, I'll bring to you and see, you know, if somebody could give them an answer, please.
Now, their uniforms have to be dry cleaned.
Dry cleaned, yes.
Okay, so
It's
nothing
about
we can do in-house.
$30 a uniform, Ken. That's what, you know,
Okay.
that's what the kids told me. So, you know, it is an expense. And I asked them, I said, well, how often do you get them cleaned? some of them said maybe twice a year, some of them said 3 times, during the season, 3 times a season. I would imagine that before they're put up at the end of the season, that they're all clean. So I thought maybe that's where a discount from a dry cleaner that would do them all at one time, may come in and cut the kids, a little bit of slack on that. So, so that was their question. Why don't we get ours cleaned and the football players get theirs cleaned? And I understand the expense in that. So, but, I just thought I'd bring that to you. And because I thought, well, it's legitimate. They just, they would just like to know. My second thing is a comment. Thank you for a very hard decision by having the floats in the electric light parade. I understand what a very hard decision that was for all of you. It's hard to make a change. It's hard to break a tradition. From the kids' point of view, let me tell you, nothing but positive feedback. They really, really liked it. They like the homecoming parade, but kids are flexible. They'll change. And they found something that they liked even more than the homecoming parade. I would like to thank you. I know, there was pressure all over the place, and it's just hard, I'll say this, at our age to make a change from something that's been done year after year. I think you guys made the right decision, and I think the kids were very proud of what they did and very happy with. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
I have a question to ask Mrs. Tinney. Are you stating that the children or the youngsters would rather be in the light parade than have their own school homecoming parade?
That was feedback I've been getting from a lot of high schoolers. On my 4 o'clock, I drive the 4 o'clock activity bus and my...
That's funny, because we had students from the council that came in here that,
Yeah, there was I think it was afterwards, Betty, after they were in the light parade, and they really liked the recognition from, and they liked the community involvement of being, involved even in the pumpkin festival, and they really, the majority of the kids that I talked to, they really enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you. That was the only request to speak. Now Superintendent Weiss has items of interest.
Thank you. First of all, we have a letter which I will read from Michigan Senator Raymond Basham. Dear Mr. Weiss, I would like to congratulate you, the Board of Education, and the entire staff in the Romulus Community School District for recently having 6 elementary and middle schools exceed federal standards under the No Child Left Behind Act. One of the greatest responsibilities of a society is to properly prepare and educate their youth. I am pleased that communities within my Senate district act on this charge with the seriousness that it deserves. Your hard work and dedication to Romulus Community Schools is evident, and for this I commend you. You are truly providing wonderful service to the citizens of Romulus. I wish you continued success in your endeavors. Sincerely, Raymond E. Basham, State Senator of the 8th District. Again, always nice to hear, and we're on track to have all of our buildings listed as having met or exceeded the standards under No Child Left Behind, namely adequate yearly progress. I'll also mention that there's some information, the band boosters. Sandy mentioned cost of band uniforms and dry cleaning. There's something in here from the band boosters, and I would encourage board members and anybody else to support. They're putting out a cookbook, and there's information on ads in that publication for you. We also have included Public Act 25 reports. As the board is aware, one of the provisions of Public Act 25 is for the district and each school building in the district to provide an annual report to not only parents, but all the citizens of Romulus community. And we do that a couple of different ways. We pass out the actual paper documents. They're available at the fall open houses typically that the buildings hold. We also post the district and on the district the district annual report on our website. And each building's website contains the building's annual report as well. And that provides things like the test results from the MEP and the Michigan Merit Exam. Also provides information to community members and parents regarding points of pride in the building and various activities and initiatives that the building participates in. So those are available. Also in your packet is the newsletter from Hale Creek and an example of a Hale Creek parent communication as well. A sixth item that is not on the agenda, we're going to have a need for a couple of study sessions coming up. As you recall, we didn't have a board retreat this summer like we did the last summer, but we do have a need for some study sessions. So we will be getting with board members to try to schedule those. We're going to attempt to schedule them before the next two board meetings, so at 5:30 before the next two board meetings. So be thinking about that and checking your calendars, and we'll be in contact with you later this week, probably to finalize those dates. In addition, we also have a need for a finance committee meeting in the near future, and so we'll be getting in contact with you there as well. So if you would, again, check your calendars, and we'll be talking to you about some available dates when we can schedule those meetings. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Alrighty, next item would be questions and/or concerns of board members. I'm going to start off. I've got a couple of things, and I will not go through the whole paper, but I did receive from Michigan Association of School Boards a half a page notice today, and I'll just read the key part. The Senate last night voted on a school aid bill that would give no increase in the foundation for the upcoming school year, along with the elimination of declining enrollment and a $28 million reduction in at-risk funding. Now, it didn't pass, but that's what the Senate is pushing as of last night to make cuts. And I think everybody knows they have until roughly the end of this week to come up with a budget, and if not, then the state shuts down. But it doesn't look good as that they're going to be willing to help fund education. My other item, and Ms. Tenney was talking about the homecoming. I've had some concerns about it from the standpoint, I haven't seen any advertisement about it. I have the Romulus Little paper here. The next edition comes out October 5th. I believe that is the date of the homecoming. Mm-hmm. Not one mention in here about homecoming. I looked at the Romulus Roman for the last few weeks. Not one mention about Romulus homecoming.
Nothing on TV either, Ken.
Yeah, nothing on TV, Mrs. Lanasi said. I'm just kind of in a quandary here as to, is this something that we're eventually going to end up doing away with? The problem that I see as far as the parades, are the students going to be able to build floats soon enough? When we have the Parade of Lights, it's always, what, the second or third weekend of September. School can no longer start before the holiday. We have 2 or 3 football games in before school starts. And what happens if our schedule falls in such a way that we have a problem getting homecoming in? You know, like maybe homecoming might have to be the first or second week in September. Or it could be at the very end of the season. I just have some concerns, and I know we're using this year as a kind of a guide to see what we want to do. But, you know, if we do away with the homecoming parade? Do we do away with coming home during basketball season? Or do we do away with the prom toast or something? And we do need to get better feedback from the total student body. Because when we had the input here, it was from a group of students, and then gradually we had other students coming in and saying, hey, we didn't know anything about it. So I think we have a long way to go. And this is something that's going to have to be studied and decided, and I don't see it necessarily being cut and dried within the next year. And I think that's the end of my ramblings. The next board member who has questions, Ms. Lanasi.
Okay, I'm in total agreement with what our president has just said. But Mrs. McAnally, I would like to congratulate you on the reports that we had in our packet, and all the reports that we had. You were the only school district that got your board members in the right order. Yeah, that's what I say. I thought that was really neat. I think the principal must have did the proofreading over there or something. I don't know. She had it all. I just did it all. Oh, that's why. Okay.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Ms. Frayer.
I would just like to say that I attended the open house at the middle school, and it was very, very nice to go around and be able to attend all the classes, get the syllabus for the students, from all of their teachers, see exactly what your child does all day, every day. It was very nice. A lot of the teachers, not a lot, a couple of the teachers are new, so it was nice to meet them. And I just think that the administrators over there did a wonderful job putting that together. From what I could gather, there was at least, maybe toward the end, at least 6 to 7 parents per class, which I would have liked to have seen it a little bigger, but the parents who did take advantage of it enjoyed it as well. So that's it on that. Great job. The second thing that I have is about our websites that we have with all of our schools. It's nice to be able to jump back and forth from the middle school to the high school to all of the elementaries. Who's in charge of that, though? Because there are some changes that need to be made. For example, some teachers that had moved from the high school to the middle school. Simple changes, just updating their new phone numbers and that sort of thing. Who can I contact to get that changed?
You can let Carol know, and then we'll take care of it.
Okay. And then one other thing was the email system. I've been trying to email the teachers, very specifically as a parent who my kids have. Is that iMail, is that district-wide? iMail is district-wide, so every...
It's not a simple answer.
That's what I'm thinking, too, because...
iMail, and I have limited understanding of this, all right? But iMail is kind of underneath the standard email. What most of us over here use is Microsoft Access, all right? But iMail actually, we receive our email and send our email via RISA, all right? iMail is kind of the railroad track that goes from here to RISA and back, and what some teachers do is they elect to use just iMail. Some teachers use the Microsoft Access on top of that. Is there a question about how you find a teacher via email, or I'm not sure what the concern is?
With some of the teachers that I've been contacting, I've been using the iMail, but if you go online and look at the teacher's email address online, it doesn't have the iMail in there. So I just took it upon myself to add the iMail, but then it came back that there was a mailing delivery issue, that my message wasn't sent for 4 hours.
Right, you want to just use the standard email protocol either way. You don't have to be specific there. It will get to them either way.
So with or without it should get to them.
If you try to put iMail in there, I don't think it will
won't
be
work.
delivered. Yeah.
No, it's the last 7, it's the last name, you get 7 digits, and then the first initial of the first name
Right.
at romulus.k12.mi.us.
Okay, so
The
by adding
standard.
the email, I
Yeah.
just.
Correct. It
Just
won't
leave
go
that part
anywhere.
off.
It'll always be undeliverable.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, it was, definitely. And then the last thing that I have is with the, like she mentioned, the band uniforms. That would be a really good idea if we could at least get them dry cleaned at the end of the year for sure. Anything else in between would be a bonus, but at least at the end of the year. Do you already have that set up?
I believe that I know there was discussion last year about how we were going to handle that, and I believe that Mr. James has worked with the band boosters on a solution to that. I don't know what it is. I don't know who pays what when, but
Okay.
I believe that they have a plan, and that was laid out to students.
Okay, because I know theirs are a little bit different than the other athletic programs because, like, for example, with the football players, the coach takes them home and does the laundry himself with those, but those are machine washable.
Right.
Obviously, our band uniforms that we spent, quite a bit of money, those wouldn't be machine washable, so we wouldn't be able to do that, but yeah, if we could figure out something to do, I think that's all I have.
Anyone else? In my ramblings,
You forgot
I
something.
forgot to make mention that the homecoming game is scheduled for October 5th, 2007. The game starts at 7 p.m. It's versus Ypsilanti High School. That is the last home game of the year. And I'm not sure about the parade route. Now, yes, Mr.
Can I
Weiss?
fill in? I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's because I didn't get back with you. I forgot to tell you. I did look into that. And again, we encourage everybody to participate. As our president mentioned, this is a year where we're kind of monitoring participation at homecoming because we're one of the few districts left that still has in Wayne County a homecoming parade. And the question that we're all asking ourselves is this something that we want to invest our time and our resources on? And I think Ms. Tenney was accurate in saying that the students, were very enthusiastic about participating in the Parade of Lights. So looking ahead, do we want to do both always every year? Do we want to do just the Parade of Lights? Do we want to do just homecoming? What's the solution here? And so we're monitoring that. And first of all, I want to encourage everybody here, including board members, that your participation this year in the homecoming parade will send a very strong, positive message to all the students and staff who worked very hard on their floats, and they did work hard. Those of you that saw the floats, they worked very hard on those. The parade starts at 5 o'clock at City Hall, and we'll follow, I'm new here, but it will follow the traditional parade route, which is through downtown, ending at, it ends at the middle school. I think the band stops at, it's St. Aloysius, but the parade goes all the way to the middle school, so it goes through downtown, and then Oscar Road up to the middle school is the parade route. So we encourage everybody in the community who is able to be there to come, come support that parade, and of course the game and everything afterwards as well. It should be a great evening for everyone. That is October 5th.
Does anyone know if they invited other groups to participate?
Are the elementary
Okay.
schools invited?
And by the way, the other thing I'll add, and again, I didn't get back to you on this, I forgot. We investigated the advertisements in the papers, and unfortunately, that was a responsibility that Mr. Cruz had, and none of us thought of it until you brought it to my attention today. So we're working on getting some additional advertising space, and hopefully we'll have that all completed. There should be something in the Roman. And I'm not sure if we'll have something in the Romulus News or not, because as you said, it'll come out on the
Yeah,
day
it
of.
comes
But,
out, yeah.
oh, okay. So we're working on that. It's one of the little glitches when you don't have all the staff you're used to. It's hard to cover all the bases sometimes.
Speaking of Mr. Cruz, he
Yeah.
was at the game Friday night. I saw him.
Did he have his camera?
He didn't have his camera, but he did talk about the different school districts he's been at. And within a few weeks, I would suspect you'll see him around here quite a bit, because I guess the winter time, there isn't quite the activity as there is at the start of the school year for the job that he's doing. So Any other questions, concerns? If not, then I guess we have a motion appropriate to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Support.
Prayer?
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Lanasi, supported by Mrs. Frayer, to adjourn the regular meeting of the Romulus Board of Education at 7:11 PM.
Oh, man, this
Meeting
is great.
adjourned.